Welcome to our Tech Spotlight today. We're honored to have everyone with us, and a special thank you to Intuit, our exclusive Tech Spotlight sponsor. My name is Hope, and I will be facilitating today. A quick shout out to my team who is also here working behind the scenes. Before we get started, we just have a few housekeeping items and resources available to you. Your lines are all muted, but we encourage any questions or reactions in the chat. There are reaction options at the bottom of your screen, and the questions section is in the dashboard. If you have any questions throughout the session, please send them in the chat, and we will have a Q&A portion at the end where we will answer those. Our Finance and Accounting Technology Expo is back for the third year in a row. We're back in New York City at the Javits Center. We have some great keynotes, over 100 exhibitors, and we are very excited to welcome back Intuit with us. This year, they are a titanium sponsor. Another tool for your tech toolbox is our new certificate program. This is a great self-paced 10-module expert-led course. Our CFO LC members receive a really great discount on this. You can use the QR code in the top right to scan. Make sure that you are subscribed to receive our weekly finance and accounting technology briefing. This hits your inbox every Friday. You can also subscribe using the QR code in the top right. And for more information on anything finance and accounting technology related, you can follow us on socials. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We also have YouTube. And you can scan for, I think that'll take you to our LinkedIn where we're probably most active. But that's all I have for our intro. And today we are joined by our amazing guest speaker, Isa Essa Munera, Solutions Engineer at Intuit. So I will pass it over to you, and the floor is all yours.
Everybody, welcome. I'm going to start sharing my screen here in just a second. Give me one moment. So welcome to From Financial Complexity to Clarity, a modern approach to enterprise management. It's very nice to be here with you all on a Friday. And I'm going to start by really just letting you know who I am to begin. I'm what's known as a product specialist. So I live, breathe everything into an enterprise suite and all things QuickBooks. And really my initial goal here today is to walk through the system, give you a chance to ask questions and really help understand how we can take complexity and streamline it. If you need a custom demo that is more tailored to your specific business, you're welcome to utilize the code at the end and we can schedule some time together. So just taking a look at what we'll see today, we're going to go through kind of the position of IES in the AI native ERP world, and then we'll go to two specific areas within the demo. We're going to take a look at how systems are connected, and again, how we can take the complicated into the straightforward and much more operational for your team. The second half is going to be all about how you delegate those operations and how you can manage it. So having both the visibility and the agency to do what you need to do. And of course, at the end, we'll have space for questions. So if you're here, you probably know that as you grow and scale, things do not get easier. They tend to get more complicated. So once your business becomes quite robust, you have many more teams, much more operations, and we're really looking to understand how you can continue to move quickly and continue to grow without any of that impacting your business. So if we break that down a little bit further, if you have any multi-entity work, whether that's related to one another, if the businesses have a relationship, or if they're entirely separate, you might have different access points, different teams, different specialties, and they need to come together for one clean line of sight to give you a full picture. Otherwise, you have things like delayed insights, inconsistent access, and a lot of fragmented data. And this is where IES comes in. So when we think of IES, that's short for Intuit Enterprise Suite. It is built off the native QuickBooks platform. So those of you who are familiar, who've used it in the past, who are using it today, if you have multiple sets of books, this is really where you can live in the center of your universe, right? So we do consider this the place where you can see across all your entities, as well as track different operations. So you'd be able to go through between company to company, or if you wanted to kind of delegate strategy from here, you have access to your books. So from here, I'm actually going to go straight into the system. And again, I ask that you hold your questions. We'll be looking at those operational modes. So I'm going to start from this consolidated view. And like I said, we can consider this the command center. What happens here is because it's built on the native platform, I'll have access to all my different sets of books, different companies, and I can move through them relatively quickly. If you have a team that's pretty active across your entities, you can give them different access points between these as well. So if I wanted to see all of the sets of books, I'll stay in my command center in the consolidated view. Otherwise, I'll jump into each one as I need. If I give my team member some access to the consolidated view, but only 2 companies out of my 8, they would only see consolidation for the 2 companies that they have access to. There's quite a lot of tiers when it comes to, again, managing this. So let's take a look at this screen together. Right now, I do have my totals across all the entities. If I wanted to see 2 or 3 at a time, I could filter them. So that means what I have in front of me is my complete set of expenses, complete set of payables, complete set of receivables, etc. And if I want to see this broken out side by side, I can go into these consolidated reports. As many of you know, this was a relatively new development here at Intuit. Typically, you'd have to go into Excel, do some spreadsheet math in order to pull this data. But now I have access to those totals, and I can split them out to see each company side by side. And here they are. So I have some companies that are not as active. Maybe I want to filter those out. So I could go ahead and just get a tidier view of my most active companies here. You'll notice we do have eliminations. We'll touch on this in just a second when it comes to the relationship of your companies, as well as, again, that total. So in this way, I can compare my books. And again, I have the full, complete picture. I don't have to go between different entities to take a look at it. You'll also notice that we have these little stars. Some folks prior to the call today had some questions around the AI integration. You'll see this throughout the system, whether it's a star or a little highlight, there will be a lot of in-house recommendations made for you based on your history, based on the current allocations that you make. They will create these suggestions and they'll also flag relevant details. So as you can see here, right now, I notice this has gone up in this company. Some things have gone down in other companies, and this will be a nice starting off point should I want to know which company to focus on today. So really from the high level perspective, I'll get quite a robust view, and I'll understand more if I wanted to click into those details from here. The other part of this consolidated report is the fact that I can divide not only by company totals, but also by what we call dimensions. So if I'm tracking, for example, departments across various companies, or a division, an employee, a piece of equipment, some sort of asset that lives across all 3 companies, I could also divide up my totals by that way. So let's say in my case, I'm serving various demographics. I have my commercial, I have general, I have government. These are the segments that I serve across all of these 3 companies. So now I would see the totals for each of these layers, right? So another way of dividing out that information company to company and being able to review. There are quite a few of these consolidated reports. So if I wanted, for example, a complete list of my transactions, my invoices, your trial balance, your expenses, being able to see them cross company to company, I'd be able to do that here as well. So again, what this does is enable me to see everything together in one place from one center without having to go into each company, and I can compare them right from here. The other thing I can do is manage the relationship across my companies. So in addition to this visual dashboard and then the detailed reports, I might also have to manage some of the transactions that occur within my entities. In order to do so, we've built an intercompany transaction module. This is where if there's a formal relationship between the entities, for example, I have a hauling company that also works with my architecture company, kind of tidies things up. I might be formally issuing invoices between my companies, and this is where I can see them and if I wanted to create an elimination off that so I don't markedly inflate my books. If I have just a wire transfer across them that I also want to be able to make quickly or that happens as I'm growing my new company, I'd be able to do that through what we call an intercompany journal, which is relatively straightforward. And again, you yourselves who are joining might not be managing this, but the bookkeeper in-house might go in and then create a journal across various entities. So I could make it on one side and then immediately open it up on the other. So if you have quite a lot of transactions occurring between the companies, I'd be able to manage it in this way. And you'll notice I still have these additional fields that I can utilize. So it'll post right from here. In addition to the intercompany sales and the journals, you'll have the opportunity to actually allocate. So let's say I have 3 different offices within one building. They're all for different companies. We're splitting the rent, for example, or there's a management fee or insurance I'm paying on behalf of a different company. And in any of those instances, I might want to actually percentage split across my entities. And this can be relatively complicated to do. So inside the system, I now can do that from a balance, what we call a dynamic allocation, or directly from an expense. So if I were to do it from a balance, just to show you, I could go in, select the company, the category. Maybe this company is paying all the advertising for all my other companies. And I can filter it for advertising just this past month, this past quarter, whenever I started this particular campaign. So I can then begin to filter down the amount in this balance. I could alternately go in and decide to filter it by a vendor under this account, under this quarter, by a customer, an employee, or again, one of those tagged dimensions. That way I get the exact amount that I want to distribute here. I'm just going to put down a flat amount to show you, and I'll allocate it across my companies. So if this is something that happens, again, periodically for rent, management, insurance, payroll, advertising, you can now do it just in a few clicks. I'd pick that category, and then I can go ahead and actually do an even percentage by sales, expenses, etc. And I can, of course, manipulate the time period. There we go. So it'll calculate that for me. If it is an actual transaction, if it's an expense allocation rather than a complete balance, I could also just put in an amount. It doesn't have to be a percentage split. It'll calculate the rest for me. Alternately, if there's something that I'm paying completely on behalf of others, I can make that 100% and it will allocate completely and create the due to, due from on the back end. So again, from here, I'd be able to manage the journal entry, intercompany, expense, and dynamic allocation, giving me a little bit more flexibility for transactions across my companies without having to jump between them, right? And I do see that all here, so I have a clean line of sight that I can then filter if there are certain things that I am looking for. I'll have one place to go, and again, I can compare across the companies as needed. So we're really focusing on streamlining your line of sight. Now from here, I am going to enter one of the companies directly, and we'll talk a little bit about how you can manage your team, which is the second portion of this demonstration. Traditionally, teams do work across your companies, and there are a lot of different positions available. If you are relatively new to QuickBooks or you've been here before, you know we do have quite a nice, robust platform for that management, but this has been enhanced with IES. So now when I add a user, I can also designate them towards different companies, like so. And then within each company, their particular set of roles. Maybe in Bluecraft, I just want you signing off bills. In Canopy, I do need you to do quite a bit more. I'll give you full access. And then in construction, there are very specific things that I want you to be able to see, but maybe not edit, right? So from here, you can manage permissions across all your entities and also manage your team. Like I mentioned earlier, if they only have access to 2 companies or 3 companies out of your total, they wouldn't be able to see the consolidated view of all the companies, just those that they have permissions for. Now, we did mention at the agenda that there are quite a lot of reports inside here. These are available both on the consolidated view and internally. So when we think of managing this and planning strategy, you'd have the option to create these KPIs company to company or across all of them. This is a dashboard that you can create that's relatively flexible here, right? So just to show you again, depending on the responsibilities of your team, you'd be able to take that complicated strategy plan and create a relatively simple, easy to use dashboard. They are templated, so they will be having some AI that's in there already, as you notice here, where it begins to summarize anything that you've currently created. And of course, you can edit it as well. So if I wanted to now drop in data, I could go ahead and select those KPIs that I wanted to see, add it in. It will be visualized. I can further edit if I'd like to, and I can add text. So this is a way for your team to present information out to you, or again, something you can click through and add notes as needed. The summary at the top, you can refine. You can have that rephrased, shortened, elaborated. So if you are presenting to investors, for example, or again, you're looking at a quarterly review, you'd be able to make sure that there is a visual component to your reports. As I said, right now we are in one instance, so this lives directly under one company, but you will have that opportunity to bring it in together on the consolidated view as well. So in this case, now I'd be looking at my totals, and I can still filter. And again, as you're noticing here, I can move through the navigation relatively quickly. And again, I can share out what I might need with my team. Now, some new additions to these reports. I'll also add a lot of folks have been creating their own custom KPIs. So please note moving forward, if you are creating something in Excel, you would be able to add that formula inside here too. I'm going to begin moving into the workflow portion. So if you are familiar with QuickBooks today, there are quite a lot of these. They have been enhanced so that you can delegate a little bit quicker across your team. Now, for example, we have specific tools for anybody working in the projects module that will enhance your notifications around expenses or budgets. So for example, if I have a budget and we have reached beyond the scope of what we had budgeted for, I can get a notification and a call to action for my team. I can also set a direct budget alert if we get past a certain cost. I want to make sure my team gets that notification and we can distribute those tasks from here. These workflows roll automatically. There are quite a lot around approvals as well for your team to utilize. So if I wanted to instead create some kind of approval around bill pay, for instance, I could go in and have this roll automatically based on the series of conditions. So let's say bills are between various amounts, or they're coming from specific vendors, or they have to do with a particular product. Let's say anything between 0 and 1,000 from AT&T, I'm going to need to get approval from Lawton and Samit. either one of them sign off on it, we're good to go, or I need them both to sign off on it. And this would show up as an email or a notification if they are inside QuickBooks. So from here, whether it's a bill, an invoice, or a PO, I can make sure that people are notified and we cannot pay or issue the PO until those signatures are on the particular transaction. So this is rolling in the background and another way of making sure those chains of authority are passed through accordingly. The other nice function here is our enhanced task management. I have quite a lot of tasks here, but I can also coordinate them on a calendar. So really trying to make this a complete ecosystem where I can manage and delegate entity to entity. And I have this for particular people as needed, and I can see what's outstanding. As I mentioned earlier, you will have some help figuring out what you need to do and what is the best practice. So if I go inside this feed here, for instance, I can see everything that's overdue. I have a summary. I have some leads that are coming in from my mail. I have some estimates that were auto-generated, etc. So this is another way of organizing what you might need today and where your team should go from here. A few other things on the report side of the house that you'd be able to leverage for team collaboration. We do now have a native forecast that you can manipulate. This is based off your profit and loss. However, it will be a three-way profit and loss report, meaning if I manipulate it from here, it'll trickle into the balance and the statement of cash flows. I can set some rules, but it is based around my historical data, and it will provide guardrails. So best case scenario, we're up here in mail. Worst case, we're down here, which will allow me to kind of decide if I want to be more liberal with my spend or more conservative. The reason I bring this up in this portion of the demo is to show that you can actually collaborate on this forecast should you need to. So for example, should I convert my forecast into a budget? I now can add notes and track changes relatively quickly. So from here, I'm looking to see how we are doing towards our budget. I can add my notes as I see why we are or are not tracking. And I can additionally go ahead and use that task management system to delegate. Can you show me a receipt? Can you show me or link me to the complete marketing strategy? Can you get that done to me by next week, right? So I can actually use the budget feature collaboratively to create my strategies. Can do the same within the forecast. These do connect to spreadsheets. So those of you who love your spreadsheets, you can use them, but it'll enable you to use real-time data and again, be a functional communication tool with your team. I will also add, since we are coming at it from an overview perspective, you might have goals per company. You are able to set those at the company level. You can create a KPI-based goal and see how you are tracking. Based on your historicals, there are some recommendations here at the top. And again, as your team moves through operations, should they need to divide any expenses themselves and not on the consolidated view, they will have that opportunity. So if you have a payables manager, you can see I have these little pies on my expenses. These have been allocated across the entities that I know they need to be distributed to. NVA has picked up that you normally split this particular bill across the entities. Do you want to do that again? So I have automated my tasks as a payables manager in this instance where I can go through and look at each bill, my advertising marketing bill, make sure that it looks correct and have it go posted across the various entities. Or I could do that manually should I need to down here. Okay. So you're reaching our halfway-ish point. I'm going to open it up to questions shortly here. Just again, to recap what we spoke to. In IES, it is a command center for the CFO, meaning that I can look at all my companies together in one screen. I can also look at them comparatively, should I need to, on a report. I'd be able to plan for that through a consolidated KPI monitoring or a dashboard system. I can also do that independently, entity to entity, and have my permissions set for my team to do so as well. If I have a relationship between my entities, I can go through and actually manage those intercompany transactions as well, whether that is a simple intercompany journal, a formal invoice relationship between the companies, or an allocation that occurs across a balance. So I'm going to open the floor shortly here. If you'd like to learn more or go a little bit deeper into demo mode with me or someone on my team, we can customize this for everybody's use case, whether you're operations or looking more for a reports view. But I'll take a pause here and see, Holly, if there are any questions coming in.
Thank you, Isa. We do have a few audience questions. So we have someone asking, does IES have limitations on the number of users? For example, QBO Advanced limits the number of users to 25.
You can add additional users for a fee, and it will depend on your relationship with your accountant. So we do have some discounts from your user base if you need more. Thank you.
We have another QBO Advanced question. It says that they only have one email assigned to a company. How does this work in IES? Can you have different email addresses used for notifications for each company and for each function within the company, like AP, AR, sales, etc.?
Great questions. Yes. So it's just like when you log in today, if you have multiple companies, you'd be able to select the company that you're operating in with one email. My email gives me access to whatever company I want to see, and then I would use that drop down. If you're getting notifications, like with those workflows, it would be directed to that email no matter which company it's coming from. And let me know if that answered your question.
Thank you. We have one more asking, do the various dimensions, vendors, customers, etc. include codes and not just names? It's always been a challenge to differentiate between different customers, vendors, etc. that have the same name. Codes assigned to dimensions rather than names also eases API integrations.
Yes, and to click in a little bit deeper to dimensions, we didn't go through it fully today just for time constraints, but they are layered classes. It's the easiest way of thinking about them. So if you want to track both a name and a number and some other identifier, you could split them up. You'd be able to layer them, or you can just use it as a number or a name field. What you cannot do is create a custom formula within the relationship between them. Hopefully that doesn't complicate, but yes, you can use a number.
We have one more question actually. How can I get information about IES compares to other products?
Yeah, depending on what you're looking for, if you're comparing, let's say, reports to something else or what part of the system, I'm always going to recommend just talking to us so we can show you and answer directly, especially if you're using something current state. Then you can look at it a little bit closer. Otherwise, there's a lot of materials and we will be following up after this call with some more detail.
Perfect. I think that covers our questions that came in. If anybody has any more questions that they would like to send in the chat, please feel free.
I'll also add, while we pause here, we do have a special report we commissioned for the C-level executives on how they're currently leveraging AI. This is something that has been proprietary information specific to Intuit, but we are distributing that out. So for folks who would like to learn more, get access to that report, I do recommend scheduling. You will receive it automatically and will contain those details.
Perfect. I don't see anything being sent in, but yeah, last call, I guess, if anyone does have anything. But if not, I want to thank you, Isa, and thank you all for connecting with us today. If there's something else that you think of or something that has piqued your interest, please connect with Isa offline and the Intuit team. Also be on the lookout for our post-event email, which will give you a link to the presentation, a recording, and more information on Intuit. If there are no other questions and nothing more on your end, Isa, I think that concludes our program today, but I encourage you all to stay connected. And yeah, join us for our next Tech Spotlight or any other webinar. And yeah, I think that kind of covers it all.
Thank you all for joining.